You've been praying for the same thing for months, maybe years. You wake up and pray. You go to sleep and pray. You've fasted, you've cried, you've whispered it so quietly that only God could hear, and you've screamed it so loudly that the walls felt it. You've prayed with faith the size of a mountain, and then, in your weakest moments, you've prayed with faith the size of a crumb, because a crumb was all you had left, and still, nothing. Or at least, nothing that looks like what you asked for. So somewhere along the way, a thought crept in, quiet at first, then louder, then so loud you couldn't ignore it anymore. Maybe God isn't listening. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe the answer is just no. And that thought, that single devastating thought, has shaken something deep inside you. Not just your prayer life, your faith, your sense of identity, your relationship with the God you thought you knew. I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share won't just explain why your prayer hasn't been answered yet. It might completely transform the way you understand God, time, and the story he is writing through your life. Part 1. The silence isn't what you think it is. Let's get something out of the way immediately. God's silence is not God's absence. We live in a world obsessed with speed, same-day delivery, instant notifications, next-day results. We've been so conditioned to expect immediacy that when something takes time, real time, hard time, uncomfortable waiting time, our brain automatically interprets the delay as a problem, as rejection, as failure. But here's what nobody tells you. Delay is one of God's most powerful tools. Think about it this way. When a surgeon tells a patient, we need to wait before we operate, that's not negligence, that's wisdom. Some wounds need to stabilize before the real healing work can begin. Some conditions need to develop enough to be properly addressed. The waiting isn't the abandonment of care, it is the care. God operates with that kind of surgical precision. When he doesn't answer the moment you ask, it's not because he missed the prayer. It's not because he's busy with someone more important. The God who knit you together in your mother's womb, who numbered the hairs on your head, who catches every tear you cry, that God does not miss prayers. He collects them, every single one. The silence you're sitting in right now is not empty. It is full of preparation, protection, and purpose that you cannot yet see from where you're standing. Part 2. Not yet is not never. This is the distinction that changes everything. There are 3 possible answers to any prayer: yes, no, not yet. We're usually comfortable with yes. We can accept no even when it's painful, but not yet? That one destroys us because it demands something we were never designed to be comfortable with: extended surrender. It demands that we keep trusting a God we cannot see, for a timeline we cannot control, to an outcome we cannot fully understand. But look at what not yet has produced throughout history. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers. He didn't just pray for deliverance once and get it. He sat in a pit. He was sold. He was falsely accused. He was thrown in prison. He interpreted a dream that should have secured his freedom and then was forgotten for 2 more years. From pit to prison, from prison to palace took over a decade. And when he finally stood before Pharaoh and was elevated to the second most powerful position in the world, everything that had happened made complete sense. The not yet wasn't cruelty. It was curriculum. Abraham waited 25 years for the promised son. Moses waited 40 years in the desert before his assignment began. David was anointed king and then spent years running for his life in caves before he ever sat on the throne. The disciples prayed for the Holy Spirit and were told to wait in Jerusalem before the power came. In every single case, the waiting wasn't wasted. The waiting was the making. And here is the question you must ask yourself honestly. Is it possible that God is not withholding the answer from you, but preparing you for it? Part 3. Why timing is everything. Imagine you plant a seed. Day 1, you water it. Nothing. Day 5, you water it. Nothing visible. Day 15, still nothing breaking through the soil. By all appearances, nothing is happening. But underground, everything is happening.
The seed is cracking open. Roots are pushing down before anything can push up. The entire invisible infrastructure of what will become a tree is being established in the dark, in the dirt, in the silence. If you had dug that seed up on day 3 because nothing was happening, you would have destroyed the very process you were waiting for. This is what we do to our prayers. We give God a deadline. We decide that if the answer doesn't come by a certain point, we'll take matters into our own hands. We'll make something happen ourselves. And sometimes we get what we wanted, but without what we needed to sustain it. We get the relationship before we were healed. We get the promotion before we had the character. We get the platform before we had the depth. And it collapses, or it hurts us, or it gives us everything we asked for and leaves us completely empty inside. God's timing isn't slow. Our readiness is the variable. The question is rarely, when will God act? The deeper question is, when will I be the person who can receive what I'm asking for without it destroying me?
Part 4. What is happening while you wait? The waiting period is not a holding room. It is a training ground. Here's what God is doing in the silence that you cannot see. He is building your character before He builds your circumstances. The you that you are today is not the you that was meant to carry the thing you're praying for. The version of you that will walk into that answered prayer is being forged right now, in the fire of your waiting. Patience is not passive. It is one of the most active, most difficult, most transforming spiritual exercises that exists. He is removing what cannot come with you. Sometimes the delay is protective. There are people, patterns, mindsets, and habits in your life right now that would not survive in the future God is building for you, or that would corrupt it. The waiting strips them away, not always gently, but thoroughly. He is aligning circumstances you cannot see. Your life does not exist in isolation. The answer to your prayer might require the movement of 10 other things to fall into place. People you haven't met yet, doors that haven't opened yet, resources that haven't been released yet. God is not just working in you during the waiting, He is working around you, lining up what needs to align before the moment arrives. He is deepening your dependency. This is the one we resist most, but the season of answered prayer, if it came too soon, would have made you self-sufficient. The season of waiting is making you someone who genuinely needs God, not just for the big asks, but for the next breath. That kind of dependency doesn't feel like blessing, but it produces a closeness with God that prosperity alone never could. Part 5. The hardest question. What if I'm in the way? I want to be honest with you because you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort right now. Sometimes the delay has nothing to do with God's timing. Sometimes we are the obstacle. Not because we're bad people, not because God is punishing us, but because there are things we are holding on to, unforgiveness, fear, control, idols, that are incompatible with what we're asking God to give us. You cannot ask God for peace and refuse to forgive the person who hurt you. You cannot ask God for open doors and refuse to walk through the uncomfortable ones He already opened. You cannot ask God for breakthrough and spend your waiting time in bitterness, comparison, and doubt. The prayer is the easy part. The alignment is the work. This doesn't mean you're disqualified. It means you're being invited to go deeper, to examine what you're holding that needs to be released. To ask not just God, when will you move, but God, what do I need to move? There's a prayer more powerful than God, give me what I asked for. It is God, make me ready for it. Part 6. How to wait without losing your faith. I'm not going to tell you that waiting is easy. It isn't. I'm not going to tell you that doubt is a sin. It isn't. Doubt is just faith that's asking questions. But here is what I want to leave you with. Practical, real, and true. First, reframe the silence. Instead of interpreting God's quiet as rejection, train yourself to interpret it as preparation. Every day that passes without the answer is a day that something is being built.
Start speaking to the silence differently, not with demanding, but with trusting. Second, stay in the process, not just the outcome. The temptation in waiting is to become so fixated on the destination that you check out of the journey. But the journey is where the transformation happens. Show up fully for the season you're in. Don't live in a perpetual, when this happens, then I'll be happy. The life is happening now. Third, find the evidence of faithfulness in the past. Look back at your life. Think about the times God came through, sometimes in ways you didn't even ask for, sometimes in ways better than what you asked for. His track record doesn't expire. The God who was faithful then is the God you're praying to now. Fourth, tell him how you really feel. The Psalms are filled with people screaming at God. How long, O Lord? Why have you forgotten me? Where are you? God is not threatened by your frustration. He knows it anyway. The safest place to bring your disappointment is to the feet of the one who can actually do something about it. Don't perform your faith. Bring him your real faith, even the broken, exhausted, barely holding together version. Fifth, refuse to build an altar to your unanswered prayer. Some people have made their unanswered prayer their entire identity. Their life revolves around the wound, the waiting, the what hasn't happened yet. But you are more than your unanswered prayer. Don't let the thing you're waiting for become the thing that swallows you whole.
Part 7. The Promise on the Other Side of the Wait. Here is what I know to be true. Not because I have a perfect theology, but because I have watched it happen again and again in real human lives. The things that come after a long, hard, costly wait carry a weight of glory that instant answers never do. When the child finally comes after years of infertility, that child is not just a baby. That child is a miracle with a testimony. When the marriage is restored after it looks completely finished, it is not just a relationship repaired. It is a covenant resurrected. When the breakthrough comes in the business, the health, the calling, the dream, after you refuse to quit, it doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. It becomes the story you tell for the rest of your life. It becomes the evidence you give to someone else who is right now sitting where you are sitting, wondering if God is still there. Your waiting is not wasted. Your tears are not ignored. Your prayers are not lost. They are being held by a God who does not operate on your timeline because he is building something far beyond what your timeline can contain. So I want to ask you something. What if the answer isn't no? What if it's not yet? And what if not yet is the most loving, the most intentional, the most carefully crafted response a perfect God could give to an imperfect, still becoming, deeply loved person like you? The prayer you've been praying is not forgotten. The dream you've been carrying is not dead. The door you've been standing in front of is not permanently locked. God is not slow. He is precise. And he is working right now in ways you cannot see, in places you cannot reach, at a depth you cannot measure, on the answer that will not just solve your problem, but reshape your entire life. Keep praying. Keep trusting, keep showing up, because the not yet is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the best part. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. Habakkuk 2, verse 3.